Okay, so today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts about this Renzetti Presentation Vise. I'll also talk about the Traveler a fair bit. They're pretty similar vices, and I'll kind of go over where they differ. But I'm just going to start right at the bottom. So, and I'll be mostly comparing this to the last base I was using a lot, which was a Wolf Industries Atlas vise. Rotary vise. So starting with the base, the Wolf Industries I had actually did have a heavier base. I don't know exactly how heavy it was, but it was heavier than this one. I did like the weight of that. This base is 3.5 pounds. I think the Traveler base is 2.5. It's a little bit smaller, but the Presentation base is 3.5. That being said, it has a wider footprint than my last vise did, so it makes up for some of that weight loss in just having a wider platform to prevent it from rolling. I haven't had it slide around me except for a couple times when I'm really reefing on some big musky flies. So overall, really no complaints about this base. And it's also got, instead of having a completely flat bottom or 4 little rubberized things on the bottom, it's got this kind of rubbery foam lining all the way around the edge. And I found that even on not so great tables, that keeps it fitting flat. I don't ever have this vise rocking on me like I did with that last one. If I set it on, a pretty warped table. Right here where the vise goes in, this was one of the biggest points of frustration for me with that Wolf vise, because that one would always swing on me. This knob right here would come loose and it would just start swinging free with no tension on it at all in the middle of tying a fly, and it did it all the time. And I have not had this one do that a single time yet. No complaints about this where the stem goes into the base right there. I cranked it down once, and it's if you crank it down about as hard as you can, it's got just enough tension. I can move it if I want to, but it's not going to move while I'm tying. And I like that. I've had no problem with that backing off. And also the stem has that Wolf, and I think the connection here is the same with the Traveler and the Presentation. But this stem also has a little indentation right there for this set screw to meet with. So this stem cannot slide up out of there if this just comes a little bit loose. So if that other vise I had, and this was not a big deal because it never happened, but I was always paranoid carrying it around by this, that the base was going to slip off, because this was constantly backing off like just a teeny bit, and that would allow the whole top half of the vise to slide right out of the base. But that's not the case with this Presentation. The bobbin cradle, I like this bobbin cradle a lot. I like how it's got this adjustable, it's got this piece right here where you can adjust the height of it, and that allows this to rest on there, but you can still leave it free spinning if you want to, which I like to, because I like to pull my thread off of it and just kind of flick it out of the way like that. But you can also adjust the tension right here where it's not going to do that, or you can really crank down on it where it's pretty well locked in place. And then this screw right here adjusts the length of it, and you can adjust side to side. I actually don't ever find a need to adjust it side to side. If anything, it's kind of an annoyance to me that sometimes I accidentally tilt it off to the side. But that's kind of not a big problem, and I also don't have a solution on how they could fix that. And on that same note, this stem right here gets in, like the back piece of this gets in my way sometimes if I'm tying something really small with my bobbin cradle right up on the really close to the bobbin, and I turn it around. That can actually, this can get in my way when it's when I've got this out here, this part's getting in my way of my left hand. But that's a very minor complaint. I mean, I can flip it all the way around and it's not in my way anymore, but just it seems to be that when I flick that out of the way, it goes right to a position where this back piece is in my way. But that being said, that's another thing. I don't know how they would fix that, because I certainly wouldn't want them to make this any shorter, because when I run it all the way out like that, that's about the perfect length for some of my biggest musky flies I'm tying. So I would not want that an inch shorter. I think overall it's a good design. It's just got a couple little drawbacks that I don't really know if there's a good way of fixing. Now, as far as the head of the vise, so starting with this connection right here, this was something I worried about initially, because it can tilt right there, and I don't really have much of a need to tilt it, nor do I want it tilting while I'm tying. So I was kind of worried that I'd have a problem with this thing just tilting back and forth when I'm putting a lot of pressure on it, and I have not had that problem at all. There's been a couple times where I've been really cranking down on a big fly, and it's moved, maybe like this joint will move a little bit, but before this one will. But I've had this one move on me just like a fraction of an inch, but even right now I can't move it because I've got it really cranked down, and that's not been a problem for me at all. So happy with that. This right here, where you lock the tension of the vise. Also, getting your rotary tension set on this is a little, if you're really picky about it, because I wanted mine set as light as I could get it and it still stay in place like that wherever I put it. It can be a little bit of a pain. It's kind of a finicky several step process to adjust all these different screws and whatnot back here and get it. It's kind of a trial and error thing, because you think you get it where you want it, and then you tighten the set screw, and then it changes a little bit. But I finally got it where I want it. I'm very happy with this. And one thing I like about the actual rotary feature of this one compared to that Wolf Industries vise is that the head is much lighter. And what that means for me is that on that other vise, to have it where it's going to stay where I put it like that, to have enough tension to do that, this head was so heavy, it took a lot of tension to keep it from flopping over. So it was a lot of tension, using your rotary feature like that, which not a big deal for a lot of folks, but I use that rotary feature a lot, and I didn't like that it was so. And even then, even when you got that rotary feature set, you could feel it was much heavier coming up, and then it kind of want to run away from you going down. And this one, I just don't have that problem. It's almost even tension all the way around, just because this head is so much lighter. But back to this screw right here, I did have this one back completely out on me and fall out a few times when I first got the vise. I don't really know what that was about, because it hasn't happened. I've been tying on this vise for probably 4 months now, and I tie quite a bit, and so I've put a lot of time on this vise, and haven't had that happen again after maybe week 2 of owning it, but it did. That's just something to be aware of when I first got this vise, and I think this is the same on the on the Travelers. This piece backed all the way out and fell out on the floor without me touching it, just tying, using my rotary function, and that thing went back out, which that was a problem I had with that Wolf Industries vise as well. And on the rotary feature, this I think the Traveler adjusts the same way as this Presentation does. This Presentation has like a ratcheting feature where you can ratchet it up, and then you turn this back and it clicks and the vise stays in place while you move that little lever, and then you start going again. I just turned that off. So you can, I think you can flip it where it ratchets either way, or you can turn it off, and I just turned it off because I have no reason to use that. I don't find doing that any easier than just going around. The material clip, it's a good material clip. I like the design of it. The placement of it, this is another problem I have that I don't have any solution for them to fix. Because I do like this joint being here, but with that being there, there's really, you can't get this material clip close enough for it to be largely useful. I mean, if I'm tying, just most of the time it's too far back to be useful to me, unless I'm tying a big streamer, and even then, like an articulated trout or smallmouth streamer, my back hook's usually still not quite back to there. Now it does help if I'm tying rainbow warriors or something, or midges, something where I've got a long piece of wire, because I'm going to tie 24 of those. It'll reach back there, but there's just a lot of stuff that I would like to put in a material clip that doesn't reach back there. But again, I don't know what I want them to do about it. They can't move any further forward with that joint there, and I want that joint there. So it's just something to be aware of, that's not going to be as useful to you as you might think. But what I have done is I've put a little rubber band right here around the base of it. So I will, a lot of times on streamers, see, I'll grab one here, just kind of show you. I'll just use that to come in here and capture that back hook while I'm tying on that front hook. And this joint right here, it does move a little easier than, quite a bit easier than this one. And again, I thought that would be a concern, and it did move around on me when I didn't want it to a couple times when I first got the vise. But again, I think that was another one of those issues of just getting it broken in and then tightening it down again, because after 2 or 3 weeks it has not done that to me. I actually really like that it has that there, because I use that to adjust for different hook sizes to line up with the rotary. I know you're supposed to, and this is a feature that the presentation, or that the Traveler does not have, is this joint right here. So the to adjust for different hook sizes, you're supposed to take out this screw and move the jaws to one of its 3 different positions. I rarely ever do that. I tie pretty much everything from midges to musky flies on that middle setting, and I just adjust where my hook is by doing that right there. So put it all the way down here for a big hook, put it way up there for midge, and that just saves me time, because I'm a little too lazy to take that screw out and reposition it every time. But on the topic of that screw, that is something that is still coming loose on me. The longer I tie on this vise, the less frequently that comes loose, but I do keep a little screwdriver on my desk just for that purpose, and it'll get to where it's just barely backed off, and your jaws will rattle a little bit. You can feel them shaking back and forth just a little bit, and you might be able to see right here how they're moving in and out as I do that. So that was happening somewhat frequently the first week or two, and then it's been happening less and less frequently. I think a couple days ago I tightened it down, and it was the first time that I tightened it down in probably a month. So getting to not be much of a problem anymore, but it is, that's something to be aware of. I put tens of dozens, if not hundreds of dozens of flies through this vise so far, and it still does that occasionally. So something to be aware of. The jaws, I do really like the jaw design. And this is the same as the Traveler. They use the same jaws. You adjust right here for your the width of your jaws, and then you tighten it down from here. So you set your width here, and then tighten it down with this little cam lever, and they do hold really securely. I've gotten to the point, it wasn't this way when I first got this vise, but I kind of have to put quite a bit of tension on it now to get that hook to hold really well. At first I could get it just like barely, pinching that hook and not a lot of tension on those jaws, and that hook would stay. But now it's getting to where I have to put a fair bit of pressure on it, which is not an issue. It's just something I'm a little wary of. I'm trying not to ruin the jaws on this vise, so it does make me a little nervous, like really putting all that pressure on. But you have to do what you have to do to hold that hook, and I don't think it's a problem for the vise. It makes me a little nervous because at first I didn't have to do that. But anyways, something to be aware of that this jaw has that not all I've tied on other jaws that aren't like this, and it's very subtle, but the jaws are not completely parallel to each other. They're a little bit like this. They're a little bit angled in, and what that means is when you've got a hook in there, especially if you don't have it really tight, there's actually a gap. If you were able to slide it down, it will be completely loose. So I'll see if I can demonstrate that real quick. Right here, I've got this hook barely holding on in the vise. I can't pull it up, but I can, well, maybe not. You can see right here, because I can go all the way down to this screw and touch that screw with that hook, and I can start pulling it up, and it's got some free room down here, but then I hit a point where it won't go up anymore because those jaws are angled in. That's where it's contacting. But because of that, if you can get a hook in a place where it feels secure, and then you're pulling down on your thread, and it just pushes down in there or slides on you. But again, that's another very, very minor thing, and you pretty much eliminate that problem once you realize what's going on and what's you're aware of that. Trying to think if there's anything else. I've been really happy with this vise. It also is very good about not a lot of the other vise I tied on for a long time, that Wolf Industries, and a couple other vices that I've tied on have been bad about when you get your jaws set and you start production tying, you get 3, 4, 5 flies in, and it's getting looser on you. You have to adjust it again. This one's very good about doing it. Most of the time it doesn't do it at all. If it does it, it's after 15 or 20 flies. So it holds that adjustment for a long time. But yeah, I've been very happy with this vise. Would definitely recommend it. Like I said, there's only a couple tiny qualms I have about it, and those are things that I don't really have a better answer for them. And it certainly wouldn't stop me from buying this vise again, but just a couple things to be aware of if those are problems for you. But thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. Thanks.